Good afternoon. Thanks for coming along today for my presentation about my journey with AI from curiosity to Eureka. We'll start off with introducing myself. I'm Michael Ray. Graduated from here in Ara with a Bachelor of Information and Communication Technology following the software pathway. Since graduating, I've carried on with personal projects and also further learning. And I'm available for software development work, either paid employment or open source projects, and be keen to do some work on. So, with this presentation today, I want to share different ways of using AI that I've used, and also hopefully we can take away new ideas on how to use AI. So the outline of this presentation, I'm going to tell you my journey with AI and highlight some of the different uses I've used it for. If you want to ask questions, please do so while I'm doing through the presentation, because after I've finished the presentation I want us to use that time so we can all share ideas at the end of how different ways we've used AI. Well, I'm really a newcomer to AI earlier this year. So why did it take so long? I didn't want to sort of dabble with it while I was doing my degree. I just sort of didn't want to start using it and then muck everything up for myself. And after completing my degree, I found life was okay. Carried on. I didn't see whether I needed AI, but I did get started with it, and what got me started. So I was having a look on the Canterbury Tech events page one day and noticed that Gen AI Training were having workshops about AI. So I decided to go along to one of them, and that sort of got me thinking on my way home, what could I use AI for? And a fairly typical sort of idea came to my head, and that was to try writing a cover letter. But although I found it very similar to my own cover letters with what it said about me, I was happy to boast about my achievements, where I often underplay my achievements. So that's why the AI letter is a bit larger than my one. Then another early use I had for it was to create practice tests while studying for my foundational C# certification. And also with these I noticed that AI makes mistakes, and this is an example of one. Sort of, we've got 10 modulo 3, so 10 divided by 3 is 9 plus the remainder of 1, so the answer should be 1. But ChatGPT thinks it's 2, as you can sort of see here. However, I managed to get by without these mistakes, and I was able to pass my foundational C# certification just over it, or last month, actually middle of last month. So I'll go on to another use I came up with, and it was to help with some research I've been doing on a couple of great grandparents of mine that arrived in Littleton in 1851 on board the ship Travancore, and that was the 7th Canterbury Association ship. I used AI to create a timeline document where when I found information I could add it to the document on the year that the events occurred, and I had it ranging from 1818 to 1905, and it generated a work document, and that helps keep research in an orderly and tidy fashion. And I've also used AI since then. I'll be talking about that later. I'll continue going along to the Gen AI workshops and the monthly AI meetups that are held the first Monday of each month at Epic. And it was at one of these meetups we were given a prompt to ask ChatGPT. It was a bit of a fun prompt. It also asked me for a photo of myself to help generate a action figure. And as it happened, earlier that day I'd been up in the mountains, and I had this photo had taken earlier in the day on my phone. And just sort of noticing here was sort of all above the knee with a photo of me. I'll sort of touch on that later. But anyway, it came back with this. So this is a fun use for AI. Now, as I was talking about before, the photo I gave it had nothing of me below the knees. And when I got home and took a closer look at the image on the desktop, I noticed the boots were Doc Martens, just like the pair I was wearing that evening. So, also another use is sort of rather using prompts like Google searches. And there was this one here. I often wondered what happened to the British East India Company, because it was such a large company and one of the largest that's ever existed. And you'd sort of you'd hear about it through history, and then it just sort of disappeared. So over the years I'd sort of tried finding information about it, what happened to it and things, and also using libraries and Google, but I had no luck. So I gave AI a couple of prompts. About it, and it came back saying that it was taken over in 1858 by the British government, although they did have their own sort of government systems and even their own army and things in India. Things were getting a bit too out of hand for them, with some mutinies and uprisings, etc. So that's why it changed over. And however, it said it couldn't provide a list of shareholders because they never kept records of who shareholders were and who the particular shareholders of companies were at the time. So I asked if, although it couldn't do that, was it able to provide a list of notable shareholders. Did that from this prompt. So came back with a list of the top 10. The first one's probably one of the most prominent ones. He they're descendant of the Clive family, were the descendant of Robert Clive, and he arrived in India in the 1750s just as a clerk for the company, and he rose up through the ranks to be in charge in his later life. There are institutional shareholders like there's various bank, and then an insurance company, then family estates and individuals, etc. So this gave me a good understanding of who the shareholders were, and yeah, so it sort of finally answered my question for me. But I tried using the exact same prompts with Google. It provided similar information, but it wasn't able to make suggestions about the shareholders. And so what sort of happened with their wealth, the British government gave them a 10% dividend every year for about 20 years, I think it was. So yeah, it was good to finally get a question I've had for years answered. Now, another use I've had it for, I'd created a contacts app that displayed the app using with CRUD features and I've put it on YouTube. But YouTube thought the names and addresses I used were of real people, and they decided to take the video down. However, the data on the videos wasn't real, as I'd used the online data generator to create the data. So I went and had a talk to ChatGPT about it, and it came up with a letter for me to use in my appeal about the video, and the video is back on YouTube now. So it was good to get that back up. Now I'll use just a few examples of using AI for programming. In this one I created a Juno device that recorded it to a SD card, the time and temperature when I opened and closed my refrigerator door. However, I found when I disconnected the device from the computer to have it running on its own under its own power, it would create faulty data. So I put the code into AI, and it had noticed I was trying to open the serial monitor, but it was not able to because the board was not connected to the computer. So as I only needed the serial monitor for testing purposes, I commented it out, and that led to the device working properly. I have created a couple projects using live coding with mixed success. This slide shows part of a successful attempt with my family research. What I'd find doing it, I'd often come across some information about my great grandparents, and there'd be other, like newspaper articles and things, and there'd be other people listed in it. So I came up with this form, so when I found information like that, I had input boxes to put what I wanted to, what the research led me with questions for what I want to find out, and also ideas of where to research for that information. And the input from this was saved to a database, and it also displays underneath the form in chronological order the information that's been gathered. Now, this is an unsuccessful attempt. It's a roster system where staff are rotated amongst various roles, following certain rules about numbers assigned to roles and skill level. So we've got 3 different roles here, and You'll also notice that the names are different colours. The sort of red, the ones in red can only do roll A, the ones with blue can only do roll B, and then roll C can they can do A, B and C rolls. So one of the rules in this meant that roll A is meant to have 9 staff assigned each day, and you can see Monday has only 8. And while I was making it, errors like this would often occur. So I'd give it instructions to fix the error, it would fix that error, but then I'd get another error, and sometimes it's actually go in circles for some of them. So, example of another error. Roll A is meant to have 1 of the 5 people that can carry out all 3 rolls. Meant to each day only have 1 of them, and each of them are meant to only do it once a week, carry out roll A. But sometimes, another error would come up, like end up with 3 people that can carry out all 3 rolls doing roll A on one day for the week. So you go and get that fixed and then get another error. So I was only wanting to use this as a proof of concept, so I've got it close enough like this, and it was used to prove my point. Yeah. Here's an example of a bit of smelly code created by AI. In this I was making a simple calculator app that I was using to show how to use Git and GitHub while using PyCharm. And I didn't know offhand how to do the message box with Python. So I had a JavaScript version that was of the same thing, of what I was after, and I fed that in and asked for a Python version. So I was using Claude for this, and that came back with these 2 extra variables at the top here. And I sort of didn't work out why they needed those. And anyway, I had the message box method and how to work it. So I wrote this, and that did the job quite okay. I didn't need those extra variables that Claude was trying to use. And I decided to tell Claude about it. And Claude came back with all these things here. Just give you a chance to have a bit of a look through. So, on to the next thing. So, I do use AI with programming, but so I'll use it for working out what is wrong. If I've got a bug or something, I have been unable to work out what's actually going on. And use it to find methods or other components for something. And all vibe code again is sort of like I did with my grandparents thing, where it's sort of part of a larger project. The purpose of that project is to research about their history. It's not about building apps. So I don't want to use it to complete or make standalone apps, using it completely for standalone applications. So this is where a few ideas of what I use AI for. Now we'll move on to the Eureka. So Eureka came about was at another Gen AI workshop, and we were asked to put in this prompt, and it came back with a reply that was 2 or 3 paragraphs long. With I haven't put that in, but this is sort of a summary it gave towards the end of what it gave me. And I thought that was did make a lot of sense. And also with the comeback, it asked if I wanted to turn it into a plan. And following that tough love statement, and asked me to promise that I'll follow through. Well, I said yes to that. But before I went ahead with the plan, I thought it might be an idea just to list what's important to me, some of the things that are important to me, and with that it sort of came back with a list of priorities. And after that, it sort of said, added a pathway where I said I should stop putting too much effort into advertised jobs where hundreds of people are applying for it, and take more of a proactive approach to my software development job search, and also to get my software development skills out there. So with that, it gave me a to-do list for my first step, and I'll use this for a framework. So it said to me to finalise my fridge door data logger project by uploading all the final code with the proper readme on GitHub, and to film and upload the project and put it on YouTube. So, and then also to post it on LinkedIn. So using this framework, I was getting projects finished, and I was also getting finished projects with updated GitHub readmes and YouTube descriptions, and posting about them on LinkedIn as well. So this leads me to, what is Eureka? So what is Eureka for me? The most important thing at the moment has been the work I've been able to get done to increase my profile online. Other things I've found with it, I've been a lot more productive, and looking back over the last few months, I'm surprised at the amount of work I've got through. I also noticed I'm more focused on current tasks at the time. And although I wouldn't say I've stopped procrastinating, you could say I've practiced it only really now. So this brings us to the end of the journey so far. I've shared a few different ways of using AI. So just some other examples I was being given by people. Is that someone was using AI for re-landscaping the garden, sort of planting the plants and things and where they wanted them, and getting advice of where to go to buy the plants and other landscaping requirements. There was someone else that used it for some sort of game that they play, and it gets quite technical at certain stages. So they use AI to help them figure out solutions for the game. Other one is having conversations, using it to argue a point without upsetting people and things. So you can't really upset AI. So there are a few more examples. So does anyone want to have any share any uses that they'd like to share?